why aren't smart people happier? That kind of thing. Or can the brain be in fact the soul, or do we have free will, or why is there something rather than nothing, kind of thing? Do we have a soul? Does my dog love me? Why do we suffer? There's a lot of interesting questions. Where did the laws of physics come from? Okay. I don't know. That would be really. Do you think we could have a discussion on that? Like,
Doesn't get far.
yeah, because can we say, okay, yeah, big question mark. I mean, you could say they come from this or they come from that. Okay. It's not really win to know, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can start a decent conversation sometimes,
Yeah,
but ultimately there's just no answer
yeah. Then why did you post it, Will?
because it can go to the first part of the reply. It can start a good conversation, but there is no answer.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let me. Is morality objective? Maybe talk about morality, epistemology. How do we know that something is true? How's that? How do we know that something is true? Um, is human reason the same as intelligence? There we go.
Hold on, where's my damn?
Meaning of meaning. And what is meaning of life? All right, we got some really good questions. How do we know we are happy? That is actually has now become a pretty clear answer, only due to the positive psychology and all the studies that have been done. They actually have all the criteria for happiness, and you can actually literally measure it.
What's her name?
Uh,
Bad.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
It's a bad joke. I
Oh,
was just trying to just because these things our level of intentional this how serious can one get without being losing ourselves in this kind of it can be a problem anyway.
right.
Um, if I introduce my topic, how should ethics influence our decisions and actions? I'm referring to the way that ethics can be very contemporary. It can change often. Our ethics have changed through time.
Okay.
And if the times we're living are quick, fast, and revolving very rapidly, like they are now,
Right.
ethics are also changing very fast too. Our ethics are very
You
fast changing.
are you saying,
We,
Damien, that ethics are relative then?
oh yeah, they can be considered very relative. Yeah, oh yeah. How
Okay.
much should the contemporary fashion or ethics and all that kind of influence our thinking and our behavior? It is very fascinating.
Do you do you
There's changing
believe
boundaries and
uh,
such.
actually two questions. One question is do you differentiate between ethics and morality, or you think it's
Oh
essential?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Morality would be something far more deeper, far more um, polemic. It would involve certain boundaries that we just should uphold, usually regardless of what society you're in. And all societies usually have some moral boundaries that they actually adhere to. Don't
Yeah.
kill, don't
Right.
steal. I mean, not to be Ten Commandment nonsense, but still, it's this sort of basic upholding of everything else. That those boundaries and those strictures of do not do certain taboos, they uphold ethics because
So if
it is a structure to help hold all the other lighter, more ethereal ethics around them. He seems to say.
I'm a 12-year-old and I don't know the difference between morality and ethics. I hear the two words together and sometimes I don't know if they're the different thing. Can you explain that to me, the difference between
Yeah,
morality?
I'll try. I'm saying that the morality would be something where you are. These are strict boundaries.
Strict
They are
boundaries.
they
In,
are they
in,
are they are not relative anthropologically. They are strict with regard to a society that should uphold itself. And
is
that
it
way,
is it universal?
yes, you can call it more universal.
More objective then, more objective.
Yes, less flexible, less socially manipulable or
So ethics would be more subjective and relative to a culture, maybe. is what.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
but that culture changes now. That culture changes.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
very quickly. And then these in ethics would be far more the how not to step on people's toes, how not to delegate, how to in a world that's trying to keep itself modulating based on uh, navigable principles of social interaction.
Okay.
Now, morality is far damn deeper. It involves real. You're going beyond. Morality is beyond. It's not just society. It's beyond. It's respecting something that it has to be
Mm,
human,
Will
intrinsically
you
human, not just
shut
societal.
up?
I'm saying.
yeah. Okay. Do we want to vote on all the different questions, or do we want to discuss them individually, one by one?
I think vote
Vote.
personally.
Okay. So here's what we do. Does everybody know how to raise their electronic hand on the React button like this? And I will be able to see all the hands, including people who are not on video, like that. Yep. And just make sure to take it down after each vote. So we could go for each question, and then I'll try to keep track of how many votes each question gets. Okay, so where did the laws of do you wanna keep that for the vote, Will?
Oh yeah, I don't mind. Yep.
Okay, where did the laws of physics come from? If you want to discuss where the laws of physics come from, or speculate where they come from, raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Okay. I got 4. All right. So 4 for physics.
Yeah, throwing up.
All right, going down, get your hands down. Okay, we got, how do we know that something is true? How do we know that something is true with any kind of belief? Do we have any idea? Raise your hand. Only got 1. Nobody wants to talk about truth, belief. 1, 2. All right, that's 2 for truth. Bring it down. Is human reason the same as intelligence? If you want to talk about intelligence versus reason, raise your hand. Is reason the same as intelligence? Looks like we got also 2. You're welcome to vote multiple times for questions. So that's 2. And let me see. Next one is the meaning of meaning, and what is the meaning of life? Talk about meaning. What does it mean? All right, we got
There's 4
make sure you raise your hand and not the thumbs up, because the thumbs up only is temporary. So just make sure that it stays up. So I only have we have
Were you
4.
raising your hand, Alan?
Who did?
AW had his hand
No,
up? No.
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 Okay.
All right, I got
That
4.
was you can vote. That was so you vote twice. So yeah.
So meaning is 4. All right, please lower your hands.
You can vote twice. You can vote twice. Sorry to interrupt.
How do we know we are happy? How do we know we are happy? Happiness question. Am I the only one? Well, I would assume that whoever posed the question would want to discuss it, right? So, Julia, okay, good. So that's 3. We got any more? No? Happiness, 3? Okay. Lower your hands. How much should ethics influence our decisions and actions? So ethics.
I don't know. Trying to figure out how to put my. How do I? I want to put my hand up for this
Yeah,
one, but I.
if you look under the bottom, there should be a button that says react, and then you see,
Oh yeah, react. Okay,
raise your hand. You can see raise your
raise
hand, and
hand.
you can lower
Okay,
your hand from the same.
did I raise my hand?
Actually,
Did I?
no, you actually do the thumb. That's the thumbs up, but that's okay.
Okay, I
No
can't.
extra
Thumbs up.
questions.
Raise hand.
It looks
Oh,
like
raise hand. I see it. I see it. I
there
see it.
you
Raise
go.
hand.
All right, you got it. So we got 7. So it looks like that's going to be the winner, unless we get something else. But okay, lower your hands. And what does it mean to be your authentic self? Authentic self, authenticity. Let's raise our hands. So we got 3. Anybody else? Nope, only 3 for authenticity. Okay, and lower hands. Are we in an autocracy right now? I guess one person agrees. Is happiness a criterion of a meaningful life? Happiness as a criterion for a meaningful life. Nope. Yeah. What do we got? 2. All right. Lower your hands. Are mental illness a sane reaction to an insane world? Mental illness is sane reaction to an insane world. Interesting question. Yeah. Okay, we got
Hold on, lower hand, hold on. Reaction.
2, 3. I mean, so far I'm kind of like not even counting unless it's more than 7, because 7 so far is the why take the golden rule remotely seriously? Anybody want to talk about the golden rule?
That is
Actually, we will probably discuss the golden rule in
I
ethics.
find
That is part of it.
someone is yes, someone has an
Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, we could definitely talk about that. So does the okay, let's lower our hands. Does the acceleration of technology have limits? Technology and acceleration of technology, does it have limits? All right, 1. Why do religions still have a prominent role in our society and lives? Why do religions still persist? I'm actually maybe get some votes. Anybody want to talk about why religion is still in today's society? Might maybe get 8. Do we get 8? 7? That's a tie. Ah, boy. Okay, we broke the. That's, I mean, we got what, 9? All
Yeah.
right. 9 for religion still persisting. That's a good question. What else do we got? Is there evidence to the limits of human understanding? Evidence to the limits of human understanding. Just 1. Okay. What does a post-work world look like? So this would be basically when AI take all the jobs, what does it look like? Post-world, that would be like, okay, what society will look like? What will economics look like? That may potentially be a timely question people might be interested in, but no, didn't beat the 10. All right, lower your hands. Is truth objective or subjective and relative? Truth. I guess people were not interested in the first question about truth, so I'm not sure if people will. Although, truth being objective, subjective, maybe. No, not really interested in that. Is AI going to spell our doom and boom? Okay. Nope. All right. And the last question, what can we all do, big and small moves to abolish our current president? Abolish Project 25. This is more of a political question. Anybody interested in getting ideas on how to, abolish the current regime other than going underground with the rebellion, revolution? No? Okay. All right. So we got a clear winner, which is the why do religions still have a prominent role in our society and lives? So Krishna, good question. And if you would like to have the floor for a couple of minutes and maybe discuss that question and why you are interested in that question, what were you maybe looking for in terms of potential focuses on it, I guess, just to keep it.
Yeah.
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 Hi.
So hi, Carl. So what about a couple of months ago, I was reading Richard Feynman, he's the author of several books on physics.
Mm-hmm.
So he, in addition to talking about physics, he also talks about other things because, he's a smart, intelligent person. And in one of his lectures, he talked about religion and society. So that's before that, maybe somebody said it, but I didn't pay attention. But he clearly articulated, and so he brought up 3 or 4 important roles for what religion plays in our lives, right? So one is it asks and answers. Well, it answers a lot of metaphysical questions.
Mm.
They may not be right, but people had all these questions all along from 10,000 years ago, and it had some answers.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it offered a structure in society. Basically, it structured society and it offered what is moral, what is not moral, things like that. And again, before there were institutions like what we have today.
Okay.
So, and three, it played a role in terms of welfare, like taking care of the sick and the elderly, and again, kind of what we like creating a community and providing that infrastructure. And again, we still see that in churches and temples where people get fed and have a community. And I might have forgotten another one case, but and when I look at this, I don't see why religion needs to play any of these roles today, because we already have very strong institutions, and
Mm.
science is answering a lot of metaphysical questions.
Mm.
Well, there's still plenty of questions, but we know that whatever answers religion had to offer were kind of just made up. And if anybody were to answer those, we kind of have evidence, and we think that science or our own experimental, our own logical view on life and the world
Okay.
has a better chance of doing it than somebody's made up uh, reason.
Okay.
And again, the same goes for others, right? We have very strong laws.
Mm-hmm.
We have so basically, but I'm surprised that the religion still plays such a critical role. I
Mm.
mean, I know the role of religion is not as much as it is today as it was like 1,000 years ago, but still, it's still significant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm just curious about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. There's a lot of answers on both sides of the aisle. So that should be an interesting discussion. Before we start, I just want to set up a few ground rules for the meeting, especially with topics like that where there's a polarization and it could get kind of heated. So we have a couple of rules here, and specifically for Socratic dialogue. The first one is to be polite and respectful. So if anybody starts getting heated in their responses and start kind of like insulting in their response, or assuming, or making judgments that are not respectful, then you'll get a warning. It just be as polite as you can. The second rule is to follow the 4 Socratic dialogue tenets, which are to seek truth, not victory. This is about all trying to get to a truth and understanding of a topic, not to win the argument. The second one, very important, is to listen to understand, not just to wait to respond. Third one is to question, to clarify. If there's something you don't understand, you can ask questions like, what do you mean by that? Why do you think that's true? What evidence do you have? And so on and so on. And then the last one, and very important, is also be willing to revise your views, be willing to be refuted, to change your mind as you understand what other people are saying. Socratic dialogue is a method of discussion aimed at exploring complex ideas and uncovering assumptions. Socrates was known for challenging assumptions. So there's a lot of people have their views because they have certain assumptions they believe are true. And when they hear other views, that's up to you to decide if those make sense and to actually change your mind and become wiser. So we need to define key concepts. We need to question assumptions. We need to explore alternatives. We need to seek logical consistency and promote shared understanding in this question. So raise your hand in order to be called on. And I don't have, does anybody know how to use the timer?
Yeah, I do, Carl.
Okay. Is this the one that comes on the thing so we can all see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. If you can do that.
Just give me a minute to
Okay. You know what
set
I'll
it up.
do? Because you're first on the line, but I'll let Sunny go first, and then I'll call on you. We'll
Cool.
figure out.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. If everybody can be on mute if they're not speaking, just so we don't pick up any background noises, that'll be great. And then raise your hand to be on the queue and to share your thoughts. So, Sunny, you are first if you're here. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, I think the question Krishna asked is interesting, but I was looking at the question. It says, why do religions still have a prominent role in our society and lives? I'm just focusing on the word still.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked GPT, how old is religion? And
How old is
so
religion?
huh?
How old is religion? That is a good question. I would
yeah.
assume as old as mankind, right?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Is archaeological date it's way back 100,000, way back, right in the beginning, with all the cave paintings and all that. So so apparently it looks like it's not something which was developed. It has always been innate. So that's interesting, that I guess something which has been innate and has been part of the human psyche,
Right.
it's very hard for it to be eliminated. So those are my thoughts.
Got it. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. Did you understand Krishna's initial view in the sense that he views that religion was there to answer questions that we did not understand, like where does lightning come from? Oh, it's got to be God, right? And that as we got physics and stuff and we got those answers, a lot of people did not need the need to believe in religion. And so but the point is that it's still here, right? People are still believing in massive numbers, and that's the question.
I took it a different angle.
Right.
So when you say still, it seems like it was developed, and so it looks like it is innate. And so if it is innate, it's the elimination is very unlikely.
Got it. Yeah.
And then the question, why is it still here? Still again.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Thank you, Sunny. Will, do you want to speak now?
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, I can't get access to the timers. I've done everything at my end.
You know what?
But
I will put a timer on my phone, and then if it's so.
Yeah, it won't let me into the app for some reason.
No worries. So go ahead, Will, if you want to.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a good topic. Thanks for that. I was thinking about this just the other day, coincidentally, that how enduring religion is, despite the no real evidence for God. Like God didn't, he just apparently rocked up a couple of thousand years ago and gave a few messages in the Middle East to some nomadic, semi-literate people, which is not really compelling evidence for God. You'd think if there was God, he'd show up now when everybody's literate and everybody's communicating widely. So there's not much evidence for God other than what we can extrapolate from the world around us. We see such order and complexity, especially when you sort of ironically, when you go into science and through the scientific method of looking at the DNA molecule, for instance, if you look at the DNA molecule and the complexity within it, it's kind of just mind-blowing. It's absolutely astonishing that that all came about just by random chance, and life sort of arises as a result of DNA being able to self-replicate, for instance. So that's where people do think, could this just have happened by chance? And I think as human beings, and I'm agnostic, right? I was a hard atheist, and then I sort of became agnostic because I realized that, you know, quite firmly that energy existed infinitely without cause, but energy being the precursor to matter, or energy came from a pure, utter, pristine void and it just appeared from nowhere. And if you sort of meditate on those two options, which are the only two options we have, they're both impossible. But something can have no beginning, just no beginning, or it came from nowhere. That's all we have. So I think people, because we've got a neocortex, prefrontal cortex and a neocortex, this is what my conclusion when I was considering this recently. We've got a thing called existential angst. We exist and we have anxiety because it's like, whoa, how did we get here? Where did it come from? Whereas I'll just finish. I've probably gone 2 minutes already, but
Well, you got 9 seconds.
Pardon?
You got 9 seconds.
I'll just finish with this quickly. That Robert Sapolsky wrote a book, Professor Robert Sapolsky at Harvard or Stanford, and he wrote a book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And he was saying how the zebra on the plain, it's munching on the grass, and then bang, a lion comes out to eat it. And through a release of adrenaline from the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys, which we have as well, all mammals have got their adrenal glands on top of their kidneys. Incredible. It escapes. And if it does escape, it in the distance, it might see its buddy getting chomped on by the lions, a cortisol pal, and it's getting eaten. But within 2 minutes, it's reset and it's gone back to eating grass again because it's only got a small brain, right? It can't consider that maybe I should get out of here because this could happen tomorrow, right? These lions are not friendly, but it can't figure it out. And also it can't worry itself to death like we do and give ourselves ulcers because it just doesn't have the mental processing capacity. So I'll just finish to say that maybe we're zebras and we just can't figure things out. Just because we've got a much bigger brain and we are able to have existential angst, there might be stuff we just can't really comprehend. I'll finish there. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Will. A.W. Crow, you're up. What are your thoughts on this question? Why does
Sure, sure. Yeah, I agree on the community part. That's my agreement with what was discussed. Yeah, it provides people with a sense of community, but it's all make believe, basically. Like it's just made up stuff. And that we pick up through the reasons we stick with it are through our culture, because in reality we see through the glass dimly, and we believe that consciousness equals persistence, which draws you into that conspiracy. And because of this vagueness of culture, we fill in the blanks, and those explanations are the best things. Even though, with all the other reasons that were discussed initially, we're just, most of us here are not smart enough to know all the science behind everything from cosmology down to quantum and biology in the middle. So the less likely we are to dive into that stuff, the more likely we're going to end up believing in a conspiracy. I don't know how far have I got here.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, and religion. I mean, I think we've been dropped into this universe with all the tools that we need to figure it out. All that stuff in the past is hearsay. Those are other people's experiences and they're not yours. And and I'm going to throw a wrench into Will's thing. Something can come from nothing in space. It's called vacuum energy. It's a quantum phenomena, right? So vacuum energy can create something from nothing. It's just that the particles annihilate each other immediately afterwards. So under the right conditions, that could have turned into a universe.
All right.
There you go.
Sounds
So
good.
therefore,
Yeah.
something must have existed infinitely without cause then. And
Well, yeah,
also with that vacuum energy, sorry to interrupt, Carl, but I just want to clarify something
go ahead.
with the vacuum energy. When they came up with that, I said to the person who told me, but they created the vacuum. The vacuum's made of something. It's not existing in a pure, pristine, utter void because it's a man-made vacuum. And then they found with that vacuum that sound waves can travel through it, and they said, hang on, we've got to start again. But even if those particles do arise, where did they come from? Well, where did the particles come from?
But no, I mean they've already experimented with the Kazmiri effect. They've already proven it that they happen.
Let's not get into a.
Anyway, let's not jump into it. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Okay.
But where did the particles come from?
That's a good question, Will. Let's hope maybe somebody can answer that. Monica, would you like to? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Right. So, unfortunately, we as human beings are not all logical beings, right? And I think science definitely has helped answer a lot of logical questions. And I think religion was made or is still in sustenance because so that it can answer all the questions that science cannot. Since we are so heavily governed by emotions and thoughts and feelings, and religion seems to be like the answer to all of this. And ultimately, of course, the community part is true. We all need a sense of belonging. And for all of these all of these questions that logic cannot answer, religion and so many other religions throughout the world will answer it in their own sense. And that's why I think now it is still prevalent. And for so many years to come, it will still be prevalent. To be, just to put a personal note on this, I personally don't follow any religious practices, to be honest. But I still think that it has become a very important part of society through traditions, through customs, through all of these different races that we have. And I think it's here to stay. And for so many other years too. It's just an additional padding to hammer morals and values into individuals as we grow up. That's my take on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your thoughts. Yeah. So far, so good. So if I understood correctly, religion is actually bringing some emotional comfort, whether it's community, belonging, rituals, traditions, that gives them comfort. That goes beyond the actual answers that have been proven scientifically. Therefore, that's not really a concern anymore. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Nibu, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Hi, yeah. So I guess what I wanted to say was religion plays a role. I don't know if it was innate and was there since the beginning of humanity. Maybe it quickly caught on, but maybe not in the initial stages when Homo sapiens were being, they evolved. Maybe, but it probably caught on quickly within a few years or something, or a few hundred years or something. But beside that, like I think the reason why it has kind of sustained throughout the ages is because I have maybe a different way of looking at it, which is that it uh, it's kind of like the guardian of the all that is illogical and weak in a sense, because like I think the first religions formed because we had a society where there was a king or someone or the rational people, and they wanted everything to be rational, and maybe they persecuted a few people who were irrational, and then the irrational people got angry and they formed religion to protect themselves. So maybe there is some blame. I'm an atheist myself, but there is some blame on atheists. Maybe the earlier atheists were cruel in some sense. And so the weaker people, the irrational people, or whatever you want to call them, I'm just generalizing a lot here, but they got together and said there is a God and we will fight to the end to protect our honor. So it could have been an honor protecting mechanism or those kind of things. So unfortunately, I guess even though I'm an atheist, I'm looking at a past where that might have happened, and that's how the religion kind of ingrained itself as the protector of the weak or the illogical or the irrational people or the mentally ill people, and they found that subset and. Yeah, but it's sad that religion also ended up persecuting atheists, and it became a circle, a kind of a circular thing.
Okay.
So who knows what might have happened in the past, but that's a theory.
Okay. Thank you, Nibu. Phineas, you got some thoughts?
Yeah, here's an idea. I'm wondering if so a lot of the original religions, let's say like the Old Testament or even like the Quran, there's like visions. Like people went into a cave and they're like, I saw God. Like I was in there for a while. I had this intense vision. This is what hit me. And I feel like that's repeated with like hallucinogens. People will be like, whoa, there's like other stuff out there when they do that, right? And so I'm wondering if animals also experience this. For example, like deer have been known to eat psilocybin, and that's actually how people first got psilocybin, like through deer essentially. And so I'm wondering if animals had that experience too. They had a connection with like, whoa, what else is out there? But they didn't have an ability to share that knowledge with other animals because they couldn't communicate. So I'm wondering if the root of religion are these like spiritual visions paired with the ability to communicate. And once someone could share what they saw with other people, that sort of seeded this spiritual idea spreading in a more like logical language way rather than every single person needing to experience it themselves.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Anna? Don't forget to unmute yourself. Are you still there, Anna? Going once, going twice. Maybe she's not here. All right, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. You're on mute, but if you're not there, I'm just going to go to Christine, and then when you come back. So Christine, if you're ready to speak, go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I don't think that religion is innate. I think that curiosity is innate, and I think the desire to answer questions is innate. And I think that when we don't have a ready answer, when we can't find it, we want to find ways to explain it. So I think that people in the past, in an effort to explain the things that happened, like fire, when lightning struck something, or earthquakes, or volcanoes, I think all of those things created a sense of we need to explain this because we want an explanation. We're still like that now. We want an explanation for why things happen. And when we don't get an explanation, there's no closure. I think that's where a lot of anxiety and neurosis comes in. Back then, people didn't know what caused illness, so they needed to find an explanation. So it's like, oh, we did something bad. There's something awful that we've done. We need to find a way to cure this. It felt like a punishment from somewhere because people were getting sick. So why are they getting sick? What's happened? What did they do wrong? What did we do wrong? And I think that's part of the reason that religion surfaced, because at that time we couldn't explain. And I think that one of the reasons that even believers today, and I am not a believer, but used to be, one of the reasons that believers still cling to things today is because they feel that there needs to be some anchor, some community, some tradition, some culture. But even believers now fight back against the idea of indoctrination, of ideology, of holding on to Bronze Age explanations for things. A lot of people are against the whole literal concept of taking things literally, but they still want to hold on to the idea of deity. and they hold on to those things in their own cultures and traditions and such. But I think one of the main reasons why religion kept on through the centuries is because it was used by the powerful to keep people in check, and to keep people doing things that they wanted done by the threat of religion. And I think that that is coming into existence again now. Religion is being used again as a cudgel, as a weapon, instead of as a means of community and comfort. And I think that when religion starts being used that way, that's when it becomes a real threat, to not only people, those of us who don't believe, but also those who have different creeds, because the dominant creed or creeds is going to be the one that's used as that cudgel and that weapon. But I don't think that religion itself is innate. I think the desire for explanation is innate.
The curiosity, yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you, Christine. Carrie, you're up. Good to see you.
All right. Some clarification. Now, this is just all ChatGPT stuff, but I searched because I had some insight from before, and I just wanted to make sure I have my numbers correct. Modern humans are understood to be roughly 300,000 years old. Ritualistic burial practices, well, burial in itself is probably ritualistic. So let's say just call it burial practices alone, are only 100,000 years old. And then the closer you get to modern times, you will get more ritualistic stuff, people being included, with symbolic objects and things like that. The making of symbolic objects is about 75,000 years old, art 40,000 years old. These are the cave paintings, and symbolic structures 12,000 years old. And these are like, these, things like Stonehenge and what's that one in Turkey that's really famous, Göbekli or something like that. Now, what's interesting is Neanderthal, who are not really humans, 400,000 years old is their history, and they had symbolic burial practices 70,000 years ago. And apparently, if you take 300,000 years ago as kind of a time stamp, there are like 5 or 6 different Homo species running around all at the same time.
Okay.
What's interesting about this is it's far from certain whether religion has been constant for all of human history or if something changed psychologically. But it would be awfully odd to say, well, they're modern humans, but they didn't have this. And then all of a sudden, some spark of divinity struck them, or inspiration, or delusion, or whatever. And then they start doing things like creating art and burying people and doing all this stuff. Right. And it's not just humans. Right. Now, Neanderthal is close enough to interbreed. Europeans have 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. That's kind of interesting. So it's not, I mean, the definition here of what a species is a little squishy. But anyway, just some stuff to kind of contemplate and throw into the mix in terms of what's going on with religion and what were people doing prior to this stuff. Right? Because doing things like burying people, that takes a lot of effort. And, painting maybe doesn't. You gotta want to do it and figure out how. There's a reasonable amount of technology there, but making little figurines and stuff or carving things isn't that difficult, especially if you're already making things like spears and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, and then real quick, prior to the Big Bang, there was no time and there was no space. So there's one other thing to add into incomprehensible. It's not like the Big Bang happened in this empty void at some specific location. That was where time and space started. There was no place outside of it as far as we're concerned.
I was going to say, as far as we know, because maybe there was another universe before the Big Bang.
I mean,
time and space.
But yeah, the question, I mean, what does it mean to say what existed outside of time and space? I mean, most of your physicists are going to say it's a meaningless question. From our point of view, it's impossible to answer. It's metaphysics.
Okay.
But still kind of profound. Anyway, thanks all.
So I actually I'm separating religion with God, because I know that there's a lot of people who are religious in the sense that they go and they have rituals and they celebrate things and they go to church, but they do not believe in God, right? They're kind of in the closet.
Social club?
A lot more, yeah, a lot more than you would think. And I'm also aware that that also goes all the way up to the actual preachers. There's actually an underground movement called the Clergy Project where there's a lot of evangelist preachers who are atheists, but they're faking it because of what they stand to lose if they claim to be atheist and get out of the so-called closet. They lose everything. They lose their job. They lose their social network and everything. So there's an actual project that deals with that, which is really super fascinating. But so in terms of why religion exists, I think to me it's clear, at least from my perspective, which is all the positive emotional things that people get from religion, the rituals, the social aspect of it. But the believing in God, to me, it's more akin to, I can remember listening to Penn Jillette, the magician, who basically said, I don't believe in God because I don't believe in Santa Claus, right? And it was the exact same analogy. When we're little children, we believe in Santa Claus, right? Who's watching over us, see if we're naughty or, we're good, right? And gives us gifts or not, right? Or a piece of coal. So it was a really interesting analogy, point by point. And at a certain point, at a certain time in our childhood, we outgrow it, right? We no longer believe. And that's kind of like, to me, the same analogy with God. As we start to see the scientific discoveries, we see all the questions that are being answered, we see all the contradictions. We say, well, there's no way this could happen, right? Which was the way it was for me, right? I used to believe in God, and then I started seeing contradictions. And then logically, you can actually conclude without a doubt that there is no God, at least in the God that people describe it as. There may be some energy, there may be some consciousness, maybe the universe, the nature, Spinoza's God, et cetera, et cetera. But the God that most people believe in logically could not possibly exist. So that's kind of like a clear answer for me, at least. Um, but in terms of religion, that is kind of like, I remember hearing an interview actually this past week from this woman who used to be a Mormon and actually, took a philosophy class, became like a nihilist, did not believe in anything anymore, and really had kind of like a dark night of the soul where there was nothing to replace all the positive emotional stuff that religious people get. And so she started to figure out, okay, what is it about us human that we need emotionally and that we are natural to, like awe and wonder and curiosity, as Christine mentioned, right? And so her point is that you're able to focus on those things without necessarily believing in Santa Claus. So for me, the answer is, so we need to differentiate whether we're talking about why do people still believe in God specifically, or why religions exist, because I agree, religions, are kept up for control, maybe. People are in them because what they stand to lose socially. So there's a lot of answers. Anyway, just my points. Sunny?
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Well, the one thing I know for a fact that religion has been used in a very negative way. There's a lot of negative things have happened through religion. And one of the reasons for it is it is very powerful. It is a very powerful way to control humans. And the flip side to it is there is something to it. We usually think about humans as animals, and yet we are yet to see animals worshiping anything like religion or God or anything. You don't see that. So there's a clear cut difference between animals and humans. And so why do humans are the ones who have this kind of, whether you think it's not innate or whatever, that's fine, okay. But why? Why are they having this leaning towards that is the question I have. And when I know, Carl, hold your response.
I'm not saying anything.
Let me finish. Now, whenever you think if there is a divine being or a God, you got to ask the question, how big is God? Now, when you think about that, if the answer which for me personally, in terms of size, how big is God? He's bigger than the universe. And if he's bigger than the universe, I mean, you know today how big the universe is because of the James Webb telescope and all that stuff. How if he's bigger than that, then the only way we can experience God is he taking the initiative towards humans. Humans searching for God or trying to come up with their own formulas of what God is like, or this is what religions do. Each religion has its own concept of what God is. And so it's not the same. Religions are different. That is, my definition of religion is human responses to the concept of God.
Mm.
So the human responses are varied and some are contradictory. And so it is almost like if humans want to kind of find God, it's like a red ant coming out of its ant hill and trying to assess the blue whale. That's ridiculous. There's no way you can do that. You're so small. You're like an ant. You're going to do an assessment of the blue whale? Are you kidding me? So you cannot assess or try to figure out who this God, so-called God figure, who's bigger than the universe. There's no way you can do that. And so I personally have to tell you, I have a very powerful subjective experience which has caused me to have belief in God. But at the same time, I'm a dun. You know what a dun is? Like a nun.
Mm-hmm.
Nun is, nuns are those who say nothing in particular, right? When they sign survey forms about religion or whatever. I'm a dun, meaning I'm done with organized religion. That's what I am.
Right.
My personal experience is my personal experience, but I'm not going to be associated with any organized religion because there's a lot of corruption there. They use that to manipulate people. I'll stop there.
All right. So it's interesting, just very briefly on what you said, Sunny. I remember people making a distinction between the word atheist and anti-theist. And atheist is somebody who does not believe in God, but anti-theist is somebody who's against religions and the negative of religion. So it sounds, Sunny, that you're an anti-theist, even though you are a believer.
That will take another 2 minutes, so I don't want to even respond to that.
All right. Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to put some extra framing around what we discussed. So a while ago, just as recently, I was wondering, we hear the words believe and belief and faith so often, and then a lot of people, they use them interchangeably. So I just dug into what's the difference between belief and faith. So belief or believing means you accept something somebody tells you or something you see. They make a claim, you accept it. You don't have a stake in it necessarily, but you accept it. But faith is you put you take a stake in it. So a good example is if somebody tells you that this person can walk across on a tightrope across this huge valley. Okay, so you believe them. But faith is you actually sit on his back and go with him. So there is a extra level of belief
I think
for you to have.
you mean conviction. When somebody's there's a conviction, a strong faith.
Right. So yeah. So it's something you act on.
Yeah.
That's the difference between belief is not something necessarily you act on, but you accept it. Faith is where you actually act on it.
Okay.
And the context faith comes up in the context of God and religion, right? It's I mean, we do of course faith includes belief, but faith means you put your life to it. So the second point I wanted to make is there is this notion of path of least resistance. So like you look at water, you look at a lot of things in nature that follow a path of least resistance. And there are even quantum theories about that by Feynman, right? And my belief is that humans also have a path of least resistance, and that path of least resistance is where religion comes in. Meaning, you don't want to wake up every day and question everything all the time. You just want to, it's just hard enough to make a living and keep your relationships, people happy and all of that. So most people, they don't have the time to philosophize or to ask questions. They just want to go along. And with when they look at science for all the good science has done and all the things that science has proven, you actually just like AI, right? When you understand something, when you see something up close, you no longer think it's magic, right? It's similarly, whatever science has done, we believe it, we see the wonders, but then it's no longer magical. And we might sometimes even say this somebody has a uh, agenda behind, or they're pushing vaccines, although science is,
Right.
or they, so you can say there is agenda and whatever, but religion, the moment you say there is a supreme being and there is somebody who doesn't even know you, so how can they have an agenda? Right? So the moment you make it so big, so supernatural, you kind of stop questioning. And since whatever answers you're getting from that organization, religion, seems to be okay, you just want to follow along path of least resistance. And you put faith in it, even though you believe whatever science is telling you, and you actually have faith in to the extent you take a vaccine because you have faith in the scientific method and all of that.
Okay.
But there are still questions that science cannot answer, and so people still stick with religion. That's yeah.
All right. Thank you, Krishna. Yeah, I think if all of us really relate to the fact that we're all lazy creatures, right? We take the path of least resistance, hoping to lose weight without going to the gym or giving up some fattening foods, right? That kind of thing. So I believe when it comes to the mysterious that is still unanswered, it's called the God of the gaps, where if we can't answer something and we can't prove it, then it's got to be God. And then we automatically go to that answer. Damien, go ahead.
Hey, so guys, I really don't. We're getting lost in our discussion on the topic. The topic is, why do religions still have a prominent role in our society and lives? And we're getting off into things like God and stuff like that, which I don't understand what's happening to us. But please not do that. The other thing I'm trying to get at is, religions still a prominent role in our society. Why wouldn't they? Maybe a better question. Religions, as far as I can tell, are this phenomenon whereby they are actually the relationships that we in the world around us that we cannot ourselves easily identify. Now, I mean, really easily identify. We have relationships between things out in the world that exist, and we may not know they exist. Maybe this is posed irrational, was posed earlier. There are all kinds of anthropologies out there, groups of folks. They're now wiped out, but some still there. There's the Aboriginals in Australia, the Dreamtime, and so forth. And and they don't have a God so much. It's not Dreamtime. It is not, And please, so there's a relationship between, and I would say the land between the Dreamtime and so forth. That relationship that makes them coherent, gives them inspiration, gives them meaning, gives them a sense of who they are, and so forth. It is that cohesion sort of phenomenon. That cohesion phenomenon, if you want to call it, that is very important. That is very strictly important. It is quite deep and quite elusive. It's ineffable almost. You cannot, it's like as if you want to ask for about concrete experience and such. It's actually exactly the crew of the Calypso back in
From
the
what I
70s.
understand,
If I may,
he
if I may, if I may, sorry, I'm being
Sorry, she
interrupted.
was unmuted. Go ahead, Damien.
Sorry, I didn't. That's weird. All right. Anyway, so I'm trying to get at is the Jacques Cousteau for you know him, yeah. The crew of the Calypso would pour a bottle of wine, part of what they drank, in their glasses into the sea, in the ocean, because that gave them a sense of connection,
Mhm.
sense of whole connection, sense of trying to find the words, sense of intimacy with what they've gone through, their
Yeah.
experience.
Okay.
I mean, these guys are right there with the big whales and the big white sharks and in caves, getting lost in underwater caves that can kill them. And if they got confused in the matter, and they getting, just imagine get out of that water and getting on a Calypso was really cost them their lives. They screwed up by just a fraction. So these are powerful experiences people have. The Japanese, the kami with the Japanese.
So that, yeah, that's a
Mount
good.
Fuji-sama, yeah, and that
Okay.
kind of stuff. But it's not just that. I mean, it's about what holds people together.
Right.
If your concrete experience is your community,
Mm-hmm.
if your concrete experience is your community, like your loved ones,
Mm.
your people that around you, and that kind of stuff in a small town, be it even Jericho, Middle East, or whatever hell, that's very important to you.
So
So damn important
do
to you.
you think that people could get a sense of community without their belief in God?
Well. Hold on. Community may one of the difficulties about that question is probably not because we don't. No one really has a religion. Now, they're using the word religion here. I'm not talking about spirituality.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell spirituality is. I don't even know what religion is so much. But I'm trying to. It's more objective in my mind in some fun and vague way. But religion will be this. I mean, no one has a
Religion, as it's
I'm
defined
sorry.
by
No
the
one has a singular religion
dictionary.
to
So
themselves.
religion, as it's defined by the dictionary, would be any kind of group that believes in a supernatural deity. That would be a
I don't know. That may be in the EOD somewhere, but I don't know. I mean, maybe the anthropological dictionary. I just don't know. What I'm trying to get at is people, no one has a singular religion. There's no individual out in the world who has, I have my own religion. No individual in the world usually goes around saying, I have my own. It creates all this funny stuff in their apartment, in their room that's separate from everybody else's religion.
I
No
would
one,
argue with that.
I'm
I
saying.
would argue with that and say we all have our own individual religion if it's parsed down enough. If it's
oh,
parsed down enough, everyone believes what they believe and they don't
Well,
believe
I
like anyone.
understand that. I understand that,
right.
but that still holds true years ago. But then again, it's still shared. I'm trying to get back to the question. It's still
Okay.
shared, despite that. If you take that's my experience, you're still sharing experience with other people about that experience. That
Okay.
is what the nature. That's the nature of this. How concentrated the understanding and these pursuits are inherent. If that was the word used, innate and human aspiration.
Okay.
Innate and
So
human.
let's
How
we
we. If I keep going, if I
we just need to go because there are a lot of people waiting, but you're welcome to put your hand up again, Damien, and
Yeah, it is. But
go
there's
ahead.
more. I mean, a lot more to this. This is the
No, no, that's
phenomenon.
fine. That's fine. Just you went over way over your 2 minutes already, so just wanted to let other people have a chance, and then make sure you raise your hand again, and then
Oh,
go ahead,
okay.
AW.
Yeah, I mean, why does religion persist?
Yeah, that's the question.
I would say we got into religion because of our intelligence. We observed the world, the universe. It wasn't, and we wanted to make sense of it.
Right.
And it didn't, the extent of our intelligence was no, we got to connect these dots and it becomes what it is. But what I'm hearing everyone here say is, yeah, but it's become this giant conspiracy now where the dots still aren't connected for a lot of these people and they can't accept that there's gaps in the dots. So that's why it persists still, is
Okay.
because we have an extent to our knowledge and our intelligence of understanding.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, AW. We usually have a rule that anybody who hasn't spoken yet would have an advantage over somebody who's already spoken. So I think, Brennan, if you want to share your thoughts, because you've been waiting patiently, I don't think you've spoken yet.
No. Yeah, I would say in terms of religion, I come at it from a different perspective in terms of integral theory, spiral dynamics, basically developmental psychology. And it starts in my mind with a sense of community and belonging. It creates that for you. And it persists so much because we have people at different levels of development who are strongly associated with religion. So people who are strongly associated with traditions would follow religion more closely versus someone who's purely rational, which might be more of like could even say Buddhism is a rational religion. That Stoicism is a rational religion, if you would even call it that, philosophy, religion. But what makes a religion other than rituals and rites and stuff like that? But I would say that I really appreciated what you said, Karl, where you said you watched somebody this weekend and said nothing to replace the positive aspects that people get in religion. So I kind of have a question in terms of if you exit religion and you enter into a new level, so rational side, where you start to reject the previous beliefs maybe as strongly, what's next? Are we able to replace that? And I think we can. I think we absolutely can replace it. But do we need to create a new religion for it? Or can we accept previous religions and just build on top of them? Or does it have to be something entirely new for us to recreate those positive aspects? Because I would fully agree. I think that we have a loss of a sense of connection and social cohesion, as Damien was saying. And I think it creates a sense of identity and a shared sense of community when you have a religion, because you can trust that other person. It's all based on trust. And you can say, okay, you're a Christian. Okay, I implicitly trust you. You don't have to question their motives if you're the same religion.
Yeah.
And so how do we get back to something like that where we can just implicitly trust people and respect them no matter who they are? I mean, we can go rationalize and if you're a human being, but we have to accept that there are other people at different levels. So how do you create something that includes those pieces and includes the higher levels where we don't quite need a quote unquote God or a true religion, but we still need some of those aspects?
Right. It brings up the logical question that if the religions bring up the sense of community and they believe in God, is it possible to have that same sense of community without believing in God? And I think the answer is yes, I think, from my point of view. So it's just a matter of what could replace it. So thank you, Brennan. Carrie, you're back.
All right. So I wanted to respond to something Sonny said and a little bit of what AW just said. And sorry, Sonny, I don't mean to be picking on you. I largely agree with you. I'm just trying to add a little something and throw some questions in there. The first is, is human religion, the way we're thinking about it, the only form of what we could kind of throw into that same broader bin? I mean, clearly there's some unique qualities of human religion. I mean, we don't see things similar to that in the animal kingdom, but I'm not sure that doesn't mean that there aren't aspects of this that are out there. And the AW's bringing up intelligence is interesting because when you look at proto-ritual or ritualistic behavior in animals that could seem to have some type of potentially religious component, or at least something that's a step different. They tend to be really smart creatures. So we already mentioned Neanderthals that had ritualistic burial practices, which were not human beings. So there's one animal that we're pretty sure, I think we can safely say that there is some aspect of religious thinking there. But chimpanzees, elephants have some pretty amazing death rituals. Crows, gorillas seem to have reverence towards big giant trees, and like certain ones. Magpies do death rituals also. They will actually bring like presents to corpses and lay them on the bodies, and they'll visit in turn and things like that. Kind of interesting. And there are some Bible stories where animals are recognized as being able to recognize angels where people couldn't. which I think is kind of a really interesting insight, at least in that framework, that there's this idea that maybe in a certain aspect they're closer or have a connection in a way that some people don't. So
Yeah.
just some stuff there
Yeah, it kind of raises the
make things
question
even.
similar to the community God. Can we have a community without God? I'm wondering, since animals have rituals, do they believe in God? That would be something to explore.
Well,
We're waiting. I don't know if anybody knew this. This is kind of an aside, but kind of connected to this question. We're very close to actually deciphering what dogs mean when they talk to us through AI, believe it or not. And whales and dolphins, we're trying to decode language, and we're going to get to a point very soon where we could actually understand animals. And so we'll see when we'll ask them, do you believe in God? Whether they'll answer in the positive or they go, what is God? All right. If I can call on Ariel, if you're willing to share, Ariel, because you're a first timer talking today, if you want to share your thoughts. And if you're not there, don't forget to unmute yourself. If not, I'll go on to Nibu. Or actually, Jeannie.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead,
Actually, I
Ariel.
had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question for you.
Yes.
About what you said that nihilists, people who don't believe in anything are nihilists. Would you include agnostics and atheists in that? They don't. I just wasn't sure what you meant by they don't believe. Anybody who doesn't believe in anything is a nihilist.
Oh, no. What I meant was just sharing her experience. She was saying that she got to the point where when you start questioning God, and then you pretty much just keep graduating to existentialism and nihilism, and then like, what's the point of the whole universe kind of thing. And so she was basically sharing how she got to a really dark place because she had nothing to believe in anymore. And usually nihilists, I mean, nihilists usually don't have a reason to live when you think about it, unless they're into pleasure and stuff. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of Camus' question in Myth of Sisyphus, where he says that the most important philosophical question to answer is what makes life worth living. And so, nihilists basically don't have an answer. And so, but she talks about the kind of like right now mystical or spiritual atheism, which seems like an oxymoron, but she's talking about all the things that makes us joyful, awe, curiosity, all those things that makes us human that do not require a belief in God. And so that's kind of like her thing about replacing the belief in God. If that answers your question.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl, Camus' position was darker than that. He said the only question is suicide.
Yeah, right. But in that meaning, right? Like if you can answer.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right. Yeah.
But it was really dark. It was really dark.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of see
think
it. I mean, he's kind of my favorite thinkers. He actually said that once you get past existentialism and the fact that the universe is meaningless, that is you have the freedom to rebel against that and to enjoy life, basically. So I think that, to me, that's a positive take on the meaningless universe, basically. Jeannie, would you like to come in?
Are you only discussing animals, kingdom, not plants, not trees?
No, will you discuss anything you would like to discuss? Because I think
Well, I mean, I was absolutely fascinated and flabbergasted when the scientist was on NPR a while back talking about she had studied plants for like 10 years. And she was talking about how plants are sentient beings. And I think I may have
for sure
mentioned this. I know that I've talked about it in some philosophy meetings. Like if when a tree knows that it's dying, it will send the nutrients from itself to its offspring that may be 20 feet away, even though there's another tree 10 feet away from it. And so it's like, okay, they're sentient beings. So then where do you stop
Mm,
wondering and questioning how much they know, I mean, sentient. I mean, what I'm saying is, where do you draw the line in the sentientism that makes you
right.
wonder whether they believe in God or whatever?
Mm,
So it's and I personally have such respect for plants because they supply us with food,
yeah,
fruit,
absolutely.
vegetables, whatever, and
And
I
don't
yeah,
forget
so
forget
anyway.
oxygen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm just, I'm in Florida. I've talked about mango feasting, and there an avocado feasting, and this avocado tree that produces this beautiful avocados every year. I go
Mhm.
to it sometimes and touch it and say, "Thank you, tree, for providing these beautiful avocados."
Absolutely.
That's
Well, for anybody who's seen the movie Avatar, I think we all know what, about trees and how they're connected and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, and like my favorite course in college, one of my favorite course in college was botany course. So
hmm,
I love plants. What can I say?
you're a plantaholic. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. So
That's
yeah,
it.
it'd be interesting to know if whether they believe in God or not. All right.
Uh,
Uh,
religion, not God.
Sonny, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. I think Damien was mentioning earlier that um, the question is slightly different. The
Hmm.
question is, why do religions still have a prominent role in our society and lives,
Right.
and not to bring God up in the equation,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be a little scary thing, especially when you describe that he's bigger than the universe. It can be intimidating. I understand. My apologies if I scared anybody.
Good.
But the question is the religion. Why? We haven't answered that question. Why is it still prominent?
Yeah.
And so let's not bring God up, and let's just talk about
Well,
religion and
here's the
make
thing, and I believe that Krishna is no longer in the meeting right now. But
Oh,
when
I'm still here.
oh, you're still there. I'm sorry, Krishna. Go ahead.
Yeah.
When Krishna was brought up the question and he actually described what he about the question, I think it was actually what he meant to say was more, what do we believe in God when all the scientific answers have been answered? And
right,
so,
right, right.
you know,
I remember him mentioning about faith and
yeah,
belief. He got
yeah,
the different.
right. So I think
You
it's more
know,
about less about the religion, more about God. But I think we could talk about both equally anyway. I think
yeah,
to me they're
yeah.
the same. But
So I think the whole issue is like there are belief systems which kind of shove it down your throat.
mm,
Kind of, this is the belief system. Don't ask questions, just believe. Kind of. That's and I know was it I forget his name. He talked about the rational religions, Buddhism, and all that. You
yeah,
know, because I think it's very important to challenge. Whatever the belief system or religion, we got to challenge it.
mhm,
Because some religions do communicate certain things more ritualistic. You do these rituals, don't ask questions, just do it. This is how we have done for thousands of years. You
mhm,
know, that's different. you know but then you have a rational way of having a belief in a supernatural deity. That's possible.
mhm,
And sometimes what happens is certain religions feel like those people who don't believe in God, and they consider those individuals as evil, or they're wrong, or they can, that is totally wrong.
mm,
There are people who are morally upright standing who don't believe in a God. There are
right.
plenty of people like that. And so this assumption sometimes religious people have is that anybody who doesn't believe in God is going to hell,
Mm,
or that those kind of language is
mhm,
counterproductive for any religion to be promoting that. And so, yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Yeah, good points, Tani. Thank you. Damien, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So going back to what I was, whatever, fantastic discussion. Yeah. So I was also saying that need not be one of the qualities we have with the problem with God and religion. I like to just focus on religion because yeah, and yes, and we have different kinds of religions that have all kinds of different yeah, but still, the thing about it is like a center. It is an experience that people have that
Mhm.
holds them together, that unites them. It is really this intrinsic thing. It is, and you can talk about the ancient Greeks and their many gods, and then you talk about the Hindus and their thousands, and so it goes on. And the rituals, the plant spirits, and how they make something. The givers are the plants and the plant beings and the cloud beings, and it goes on. The American Indians, and it goes on with this stuff. Yeah, of course. Now that is what they find special, what they find very core, and they're how they work themselves. There's like an anthropological triangle, which is the what the means of living connects with the spiritual understanding of how they have themselves, of what gives them meaning, which also connects with the social strata. That is the triangle, and you can Star of David out of that if you want to make many triangles. You can expand on this kind of theme, but still, that is the anthropological triangle, simply put. But so you can but these are things how societies work together. But and I'm not just going to be just about community and societies having these these inclinations because they're human, but it is what allows them to do things together and gives them real intrinsic meaning. You look at we could say, oh, I'm separate, I believe but yes, but you are connecting. You see the beautiful flowers and the trees, you're still connecting.
Mhm.
That experience to something that you knew previous in your mind, previous in, oh, it reminds me of a poem by Shelley, or reminds me of a poem by, by what do you call Wordsworth, whatever. And you can do this kind of thing. That's fine. That's very cool. Very important.
Okay.
But still, these things are very intrinsic to human beings. Are they useful? Yes.
Hmm.
Are they going to be misleading? Yes, as many things can. A lot of knowledge is like that. A
Okay.
lot of what you call knowledge is very misleading.
All right.
Science can do the same damn thing, mislead us too, as we know about earlier sciences and
Hmm.
our way we employ sciences and way we misallocate certain. We know
Yeah.
these things are
Oh,
problems.
that could be a whole other topic.
Oh, that's a whole nother thing, the whole nother cookie
All right.
altogether. Thank you so much, Carl. We see what I'm getting at. It's religions can be used, but a lot of times it can be when you have a tricky sort of phenomena like this,
Yeah.
it gets quite hard to employ it rather instrumentally. I'll let it go.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you, Damien. If I could go to James next and then Christine. Go ahead, James, if you want to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Well, it sounds like the question is, why, with all the science we have, there's still religion. Um, and it's because science is not offering us the kind of answer, enough of an answer
Mm.
about what what the truth is, what the absolute is. They kind of come up with, uh, notions of, objective reality. But
Mm.
even in, science, they're kind of like stumped by, quantum physics. They have like 10 or 11 different interpretations of what is at the root of bottom of what is real. Is it a wave or is it a particle or, how do you measure it and so forth. And so, so science is not, it doesn't have all the answers.
Mm.
And particularly, people mention about how religions offer us, more than science does because it deals with people's feelings and
Hmm.
community with other people and so forth. But there are also a lot of religions that don't, use the word refer to a God as the absolute.
Hmm.
Buddhism that doesn't, posit that there's a God.
Right.
In fact, it's just the opposite. They posit that's what the absolute is in nirvana, which is nothingness, and that's like a state of heavenly bliss.
Hmm.
And even Confucianism is like that too. There's no absolute. They refer to it as, the absolute is heaven or somewhere like that. And so there's a lot of religions that, when talking about religion, it doesn't mean that it's always referring to a Western notion of a God.
Right.
And so that's why religions of different kinds, existentialism
Mm-hmm.
can have talk about a mystical experience. So there's there's some like yeah. So that's why I think that's why religion still persists, because it does offer people with a sense of community and a sense of believing in something that the science has not been able to
Figure that science has not
satisfy,
answered
fulfill.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, James. Let's go to Christine.
Hi, I am going to try to address some of the things which came up as quickly as I can.
Cool.
I do want to mention, since Buddhism has been mentioned a number of times and it was talked about as a rational religion, I want to point out that Buddhists too, over history, um, have within their own group been just as cruel as any of the religions that we don't consider, quote, rational. Let's look at Myanmar. Let's look at the fact that people with disabilities in Buddhist countries, and many Buddhist countries, are spit upon and believed to be murderers in a previous life. That's not particularly rational, regardless of whether there's a God involved or not.
Right.
I think that one of the key reasons that religion stays with us is because, aside from the community, let's look at what holds that community together. It's belonging. It's the same concept of groupthink as a gang,
Right.
or as Christian nationalism, or just nationalism.
Tribal.
Statism in a failed communist state. When people feel like they belong to something as opposed to an other, when they can other somebody else, some other group, some other individual, some other religion, it provides them with a space that is theirs, and they feel special.
Yeah.
And I think that religion is just one of those things, and I particularly think in the United States, religion has prevailed in such a way because we provide it with exemptions and exceptions. So, for example, you can have freedom of speech with respect to this, that, or the other thing, but how dare you say something blasphemous, and you're treated in a certain way, and you can't do this and you can't do that about religion. The other thing is that if we look at a lot of the very secular states out there, Scandinavia, the United Kingdom is much more secular than we are. They are, no more or less moral than the United States is, even with the amount of, quote, religiosity we supposedly have. And you look at the society, there's a lot of lip service paid to the religions that we belong to, but I can't look at any group in our country where you have wonderful people in every single group, and you have horrific people in every single group. And I certainly can't point to the religiosity in the United States and say, wow, we're really doing well because we're such a Judeo-Christian nation, because we certainly aren't.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Will, you're next.
Let's go. Yeah, I was in a meeting yesterday of the Humanists Australia. That's interesting what that last lady, Christine, was it said? I was just thinking about that last night. That's a real coincidence. I'm in a meditation group, and the teacher, he's a PhD psychology, but he's also a full-on Buddhist, and he doesn't talk about the Buddhist stuff very often, but he's going to do a series on it soon in his group. But I was thinking, because he firmly believes in karma, and I was just thinking that if, because through the Buddhist tradition, if somebody is, as Christine said, say, disabled, in the Buddhist tradition, that's because they deserve it. essentially, like if you're really honest about it, because they did something in their last life that caused that. So I was just thinking about that last night, how dangerous that is, that attitude.
Yeah.
And Christine just mentioned that then, that's a real coincidence. But what I was going to say was that in a meeting of the Humanists Australia, and humanism is about, being good and being beneficial to the environment, being good fellow and helping your fellow citizens. They have great intention, but they're very much secular. And if you're a religious person, you're probably not suited for humanism, and you're definitely not allowed to talk about religion in the groups. But what I was saying last night was that people, so in life, there's a thing called small m meaning, which is like, how do you find meaning in your life? I'm on the committee at the golf club, or I do pottery, or, whatever it might be. I find but meaning that way, but that's called small m meaning. So we sort of find meaning from the dopamine release when we achieve a little goal or do something that feels right. I'll just mute Ginny.
What's capital M meaning?
So capital M is what I was getting at. The capital M is people, and this is the thing that I tried to bring to their attention last night, that people still want a capital M. Like, how did we get here? Like, it's such a fascinating scenario that somehow you're born into this world, and people, many people, like I've been fascinated by that since I was a child. Like, what's going on? How did it, where
talk
did it all
about the
come from?
mysteries that has not been answered yet is what you're talking about.
Yeah, the mystery. So what I was trying to say to them was, without a great deal of success, I don't think, but what I was trying to say was that if philosophy is a great way to draw people in, and some of the humanists Australia are saying, yeah, that's a good idea, get people interested in philosophy, and they're looking for meaning in philosophy. Like, for instance, from a big bang 14 billion years ago, guess what emerged? Love, intelligence, envy, desire, hatred, emotion, experience, self-awareness. Well, how did that happen from a big bang? So you can find, and looking at the natural world, like how a spider knows to spin a web, and how birds' song is selected for through aesthetic appreciation, and the values that are hereditable that must somehow lie in a DNA molecule. I mean, it's just astonishing, this world that we live in, that people walk around like they're brain dead. You look at people in the street, they're all sort of, everybody's stressed out and unhappy. Most people, not everyone, but like we did, just like there's something in the water that makes everybody sort of, all turning into zombies. But I'll leave it there. So you can find meaning in philosophy and wonder and just curiosity. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think philosophy encompasses everything. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, Nibu, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have much to add, but yeah, I think like the reason why religion uh, has stayed on for such a long time is it's like a multi-purpose tool that people can use for all sort of things. Like it's only limited by your creativity, I guess. And maybe religion came up because of creativity to some extent. So maybe it could be as weird as someone deciding to make some money out of thin air, without some investment. So a kind of a get quick rich scheme. But it could also be used as defending the weak from the strong, from the abusive, that kind of thing. Also, a rallying point. So, if you are promised heaven, which many religions do, upon death, then you're more likely to go to war and fight for, things, I guess.
Right.
So that can be used to motivate the
And
less,
control
yeah,
the
those
population.
kind of
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So a multi-purpose tool in many sense. So that's why we have a hard time getting off religion too, because it serves so many purposes, and If it was just one thing, we could have easily replaced it with something else. But yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Nibu. Ariel.
Yeah, so as to the question, why we have religion, again, for as the previous person said, multiple reasons we have it. However, I would say that in the modern view, really, it's on the one hand, a way of creating a community or a group from which you can create similar values and beliefs in order to control them. So it's a control mechanism, as government is a control mechanism, as many other kind of social institutions have become control mechanisms. So in other words, it's clannish. It's kind of probably started out very tribal and clannish, trying to create some kind of order from chaos and from our animalistic tendencies to a doctrine that would sort of dictate and try to control those animalistic tendencies, so that we can grow and develop, but more importantly, to empower those in charge and empower those who are about to die for those in charge, as another person already put it. And I wanted to put out a shout to, I think her name's Christine, or Christine, because that's a very good point. A lot of people think that Christianity is the only bad guy that kind of goes off in extremes. Even if you're not a Christian, there are some Christians who will very pointedly tell you you're going to hell, because you're a heathen and a sinner. Even if you're not a Christian, they'll tell you that. But Buddhism is no better. And I would argue that probably any kind of religion you look at, they have their doctrine, they have their beliefs. So even if you're a non-believer, but even if you're trying to be a believer in Buddhism, there are extremes to Buddhism, in terms of purity and virtue and karma and all that, and they lay it on heavy, some of them. So, buyer beware. So again, it is a manipulation and a control, which is why I was a Christian, then I was a Buddhist for a while there. Now I'm agnostic and I'm okay with that. And I just I don't have anything against any other religions or anything like that. I just know that my personal beliefs, I think, do not, those religions are not satisfactory to me. In other words, they're too, in my opinion, they're too antiquated, a lot of them, in the belief system. I think with science and how science has come to teach us a lot about the world we're in, but also our own mind and how our own mind works and our body and things like that. And as we discover more, I think that, we still need religion, but I think it needs to change and evolve. And I know I have changed and evolved. So the religion of my childhood is not the religion, my religion now, nor will it ever be.
I must go, folks. Take care. It was great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Damien. Take care. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is E.O. Wilson said, the problem that humanity faces is that we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. In the context of this conversation, I think what we maybe can focus on is the Paleolithic and the medieval. Because what we're talking about, well, he mentioned emotions, but clearly in the Paleolithic era, there was at least a form of spirituality, if not an organized religion. The institutions, though, the medieval ones, that seems to be what we would call religion. And if we're kind of stuck with those medieval institutions today, look at our forms of government, they really haven't evolved that much. Here's the question. If you don't want the medieval institutions, what can you envision that would take their place? Do you just eliminate the institutions and we kind of go back to a, more individualistic, Paleolithic lifestyle where we just have this kind of spirituality? Or do we have to go to something else? Because I don't know what that is. I hope somebody else has an idea just to see if there's something maybe satisfying out there that we're missing. Or can you go actually through it to the other side and there's something there that's more like the spirituality that works with the godlike technology? I don't know. And to make this point, Michael Crichton wrote a really interesting kind of op-ed on how the climate change kind of paradigm seems to parallel religious devotion. It's a fascinating article. If you just look up climate change, Michael Crichton, you'll find it. But he talks about, you've got your people, the people with the word, with the white coats and this and that. You've got redemption, you've got paradise lost. I mean, you've got all of these things that you can kind of, original sin, et cetera, you can kind of pile into this narrative without making a comment on climate change. Just the way people embrace it and react to it, which is pertinent to the conversation, I think. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. Oh, and then Ginny, Secret Life of Trees. If you haven't read it, fantastic book. You might like it because I think that the question here is intelligence is being separated now from consciousness. We've got enough information that we can say intelligence is kind of this different thing, right? You can have intelligence without consciousness per se, or at least animal consciousness. So I would say the question of whether trees have subjective experience is still open. I mean, clearly, I don't think they think and feel and, like people do, just because they don't have any of those structures. But they're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe there is some kind of subjective experience there of a sort. So anyway, check it out. Great book. Real fun. Thanks.
Wait a minute, Carrie. Okay. Oh, first of all, I just want to say I always so enjoy listening to what you have to say, that all the meetings that I share with you. Okay, so again, I said earlier, where do you stop in something being a sentient organic form? I mean, if it's sending its nutrients to its offspring that's 20 feet away, even though there's another tree 10 feet away, who is to say that is not not a form of thinking? You know what I mean?
Here's the problem I think that we have is that there are two ways of looking at these complex higher order structures. You can look at it, I think AW posted a link there talking about collective intelligence. This would be top down. And we're not very good at top down. We don't really have, I mean, people are just now starting to come up with ways to understand this, and it's largely speculative. It's like a point of view thing. It's like, well, what if we look at it this way? But that's hard to break down because we're so reductionist. And the reductionists can turn anything into down to this molecule switches onto that molecule and this happens and makes it automatic, right? Because trees do share nutrients also with non-family members and members of other species in certain circumstances. So there's an intelligent decision-making process going on. I don't know whether the tree's thinking about it and going, oh God, I got to take care of my kids. So this is my last will and testament, right? But again, I'm going to look at it as, is there a subjective experience of being a tree? Because there's a lot going on that we don't give them credit for. And then throw in that mycelium that's connecting them all. And I mean, what do they call that? It's like, oh God, there's a cute term about like, it's a play on the World Wide Web, but it has to do with mushrooms.
The fungi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? The sponge, the blobby, spongy. There's a Rick Marshall who does a meeting on Mondays. Ancient. What is it? What is the name of his group? Anyway, he loves those spongy. What do you call it? The sponge. Do you know what I'm talking about, Carl?
Lines
one cell spongy that floats around but
amoebas?
The way they what
amoebas?
Yeah. But there's a
single cell
okay,
creature.
I'll come back.
Oh, mitochondria. I don't know.
Okay, I'll come back.
Biome. There's a whole bunch of We have
I mean,
more bacteria in us than cells in our body.
okay, I'll just Google and I'll be right back.
Okay. Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, the discussion about rational Buddhism came up. So I just wanted to say a little bit about that and what Buddha said about some of the things we're talking about. So when Buddhism came to the West, mostly like for 60, 70 years ago, a lot of people liked the message, but some were not comfortable with the religious aspects like afterlife and interpretations of karma and things like that. Right. And about 30, 35 years ago, people started to identify themselves, a group, as secular Buddhists. And Stephen Batchelor, Batchelor, has a book called Buddhism Without Beliefs, which is a good book to read upon. So basically, the focus here for the secular Buddhists is to disentangle themselves from the religion and the cultural Buddhism that is adopted in Buddhist countries and all the practices that go with it. So I describe myself as a secular Buddhist, and I cringe when people say, "Hey, you Buddhist, you do that bad stuff, you do this bad." No, it's different.
I mean, I
So
consider
that's
Buddhism more of a philosophy of the mind, really. It's more of a psychology.
right, philosophy and a practical approach to life, and that's my second point, right? So Buddha famously didn't want to dabble in metaphysical questions. When somebody in his group asked him questions like, "Is the universe expanding? Where did it come from?" He would say effectively, let's not get into that. It's not gonna solve our problems right here, right now. Let's just focus on this. So he famously didn't get into metaphysical questions, which is one big aspect of what religion in those days, what we currently call Hinduism, was dabbling in quite a bit. So that's and in one of the books I read describing Buddha's teachings, Buddha apparently said, we humans have two huge psychological needs. One is self-protection, and the other is self-preservation. So self-protection is the need to, to feel secure and all of that, the lower Maslow's hierarchy needs. And we invented God to help us take care of those. Hey, God, give me children. Hey, God, give me security. Things like that, right? So he said people invented God to take care of self-protection. And he said self-preservation is where we cannot accept the fact that we die and then nothing, and there's nothing else. So we think that there is something much bigger than us and there's something mysterious, mystical out there. So he apparently said the soul is how they created a soul to say that they live beyond their current lifetime, which carries on. And he said, I don't need God, I don't need soul to do my work. Right? Like his work was to tackle suffering and to help people live a better life. So that's where the secular Buddhists draw the line on what Buddha's teachings were. That's encapsulated in Hinayana, or what some people might look at as Theravada. And anything beyond that, Mahayana or Vajrayana, was things people added on later because they just needed a notion of a god and religion and things like that.
Thank you.
So yeah.
All right. We're getting close to the end. We have about 15, 20 minutes. Mike, do you want to go ahead, and then I'll end with
everybody has something that's mystical and unexplainable, whether they're humanist or Taoist or Confucianist. We say that Tao is rational, but they have a whole lot of supernatural material in their religion. And is it better to have the anthropological anthropomizable myth of the world created in 7 days by the word of God. Let there be light. Let there be how you separate a firmament into earth and water? Or is it better to say that the world was created out of nothing, out of emptiness, in 3.5 nanoseconds, 13.8 billion years ago? I think that's a myth too, and so do most scientists. All science is provisional, and most religion is provisional, because what a Hindu believe, and I shouldn't speak for all the Hindus and Confucianist people that might be on this panel, but what they believed 2,000 years ago isn't the same thing that they believed 5 years ago, isn't the same thing they believe now. It's a certain amount of provisional belief that comes into it. And somebody said, science can't answer all the questions, but we have heuristic answers to all the questions, that we have an operational basis for getting up in the morning, because we have a heuristic answer. And so it's all heuristic. Even if you're a cosmologist and you understand the properties of empty space, that maybe you could have created something out of nothing. It's the singularity, and how the solutions to Schrodinger's wave equation work. It's all anthropomorphical, because that's all we can think about, because we're anthropomorphical people. And I yield the balance of my time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Food for thought. So I just wanted to offer Carrie an answer to the what can replace spirituality, in a sense. And I mentioned this woman that I saw interviewed in Rainn Wilson's podcast, Soul Boom. A lot of interesting discussions, but she is the one that went through this dark night of the soul and talks about and started thinking about what can replace spirituality. So she calls it spiritual atheism, or mystical atheism. And she wrote a book called No Nonsense Spirituality, which is like spirituality without all the nonsense, pretty much, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to put the link in the thing for if you're interested in this, because the conversation was really, really fascinating, and I think she did answer the question in terms of she doesn't negate awe and play and curiosity and love and all the things that you could definitely enjoy life without believing in a supernatural deity. James, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that, exactly that. The mystical atheism is closer to what the reality is, and that we need to, that we need to accept that as a form of spirituality, because it's closer to, uh, probably what the truth is. Because it doesn't get you into trouble of believing in something that is that denies the reality of change, a process, and that we're always, and that the universe doesn't really have a purpose. But if you want to give it a purpose, then you can believe in some notion of a God, or the higher being. But that would, get you into trouble, because, in reality, we're constantly in a process of change and becoming.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, that, in our daily lives, we are agents that seem to have a purpose, but we're projecting a sense of purpose towards this kind of absolute reality, dominated by God. And that is a kind of spirituality that seems to lock you into a fixed notion of what reality is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That you know, that's so the mystical atheism. Yeah, I'm reading a book by this guy named Zipporah, and he compares the different religions
Mm-hmm.
to religions that posit this kind of atheism, and one that posits this kind of traditional notion of a Godhead
Mm. Yeah.
that sort of denies that the universe is continuous and without purpose.
Mm.
But for some people, purpose and gives them a sense of meaning, and so they want to embrace
Well,
that kind of
that's the
notion
important
of
thing, right?
God. That kind of so it knows there's only there's a fixed soul, and that's going to live forever, and God is eternal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the truth. But so there's a kind of a conflict there with these different kinds of religions there, and it depends on what you believe. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, we're technically all atheists, except some people believe in one more God than I do, right? So it's kind of everybody, I think, kind of believes in one God, but they don't believe in the other 3,000 gods. So they're atheists about the other 3,000 gods. And then, so when you kind of make that conclusion, really, it's that
you're saying we're all agnostics, right? Because we don't really know, and we have
well,
to fall
no, but
back
if
on
you ask, do you believe in Zeus? They would say no, like categorically. It's not like, oh, I don't know if he exists or not, or Thor,
right,
or Cyrus, or any of the other gods, right? It's kind of like it's been
right,
a history of belief, which is kind of leans more towards the reality or the truth that that man is the one that created God, not God creating
right,
man.
right. Yeah, it
Uh,
comes down to whether
yeah,
you believe in a continuous, reality and a universe that's continuous,
right,
or do you want to, stop that continuity and say, oh, there's a discontinuous, idea, and that is God,
right,
and that God is fixed, and it doesn't, there's no continuity.
right.
Yeah.
Sunny, go ahead.
Yeah, I just read something, and that was fascinating about a pure secularized society will uh, will look at religion and irreligion as non-issues.
Mm,
So, in other words, they wouldn't call themselves an atheist,
right.
nor will they have any fascination for religion. They will just say, "What?
Yeah.
What is atheist?" Atheist, the term, is just a reactionary term to a theist. So, a pure secularized society, they will never call themselves an atheist. They will just live probably as a humanist or
Right.
an, whatever. So I just wanted to I read that and I thought that's fascinating.
Right. I mean, most atheists, I think, don't really think about God on a daily basis, right? It's like there's just not non-thought. I mean, is there such a thing as non-belief in plumbing? What's the word for non-belief in plumbing, right? I mean, kind of. Anyway, so it's usually kind of irrelevant to most people's lives. But I wanted to share one of my favorite religious jokes for the group as we end the meeting. Maybe some people have heard it before. It's by Emo Phillips. And he says, once I saw this guy on a bridge about to jump, and I said, don't do it. He said, nobody loves me. I said, God loves you. Do you believe in God? He said, yes. I said, are you a Christian or a Jew? He said, a Christian. I said, me too. Protestant or Catholic? He said, Protestant. I said, me too. What franchise? He said, Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist? He said, Northern Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist or Northern Liberal Baptist? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region or Northern Conservative Baptist Eastern region? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1879 or Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912. I said, die, heretic, and I pushed him off the bridge.
Excellent.
Oh my God, Carl,
That'd
how
be a
did you?
good Academy Awards joke. I could see that.
It was a little
Ex-
long, I thought, but it's so you know, talks about all the that was actually my question growing up. Like, why is there so many people believing the same thing, but there's like so many denominations and they kind of hate each other and they war over each other. And it's like, doesn't make any sense.
Carl, can I say another joke?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this Roman Catholic professor, he told this to a Protestant, saying, "You guys protested us. Now you're protesting each other."
Yeah, exactly. All right. He actually had a much shorter one, which I thought was funny too. He says, when I was a kid, I used to pray every night for a new bicycle. Then I realized that the Lord doesn't work that way. So I stole one and asked him to forgive me. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. We need to log off. On that note, great conversation. Thank you all for
Thank you.
attending. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye. Good night.
Bye.